The morning sun glazed the wide streets of Lekki Phase 1 as students streamed into King's Haven Private School, their designer shoes tapping across marble floors. Among them was Vanessa Adebayo, the daughter of Nigeria's most respected real estate tycoon. She stepped out of a sleek black Mercedes G-Wagon, adjusting her diamond-studded earrings. Her friends clustered around her immediately, giggling and exchanging gossip as if their words carried power. Vanessa loved being the center of attention, her laughter rang loudest, her walk the most poised. But what gave her the most pride was the unspoken rule: no one dared challenge her status. Femi walked past them, head bowed, holding a faded backpack and wearing shoes with a visible tear near the sole. He had transferred on a scholarship only last term, a boy of few words and fewer friends. Vanessa spotted him and smirked. "Can't King's Haven afford to give out decent scholarships?" she said loudly. Her friends laughed. Femi didn't stop walking. Femi sat at the back of the class, close to the window where the wind sometimes cooled the room. His notebook was neat, his pen gripped tightly as he wrote down every word the teacher said. He never looked up, not even when the class erupted in laughter at a joke he wasn't part of. Femi had learned to make himself invisible. It was safer that way. Attention only brought mockery, and in King's Haven, attention was currency. He had none to spend. Vanessa sat up front, near the air conditioner, casually twirling a braid with her pink manicured fingers. She barely paid attention to the lesson. Her eyes drifted toward Femi, but not with curiosity, only amusement. "I still don't get how someone like him got in here," she whispered to a friend. "Probably hacked his way in with a calculator." The whole row chuckled. Femi's ears burned. But he didn't lift his head. Not yet. At lunch, the cafeteria buzzed with noise, clattering trays, bursts of laughter, and loud debates over whose parents had bought the latest iPhone. Vanessa sat at her usual corner, surrounded by classmates who waited for her to speak first. Her presence ruled the room, like the queen bee of a hive. When Femi entered, tray in hand, she narrowed her eyes. He wore the same faded shirt from last week, sleeves neatly rolled up. He scanned the tables but found no place welcoming enough, so he quietly walked to a corner seat by the window. "Look at him, eating like he's at a booker," Vanessa whispered to the others. "If hunger was fashion, he'd be a model." The group roared with laughter. Femi didn't react, though her words pierced him deeper than she'd ever know. Still, he focused on his food, slowly chewing, his mind already drifting elsewhere, to the coding project he'd been building at night, on a borrowed laptop. That evening, after school, Femi walked the long distance home. He couldn't afford the school bus, and even if he could, the sneers from Vanessa and her crew made it unbearable. His house was far from the clean sidewalks of Lekki. He lived in a cramped room in Ajigona with his mother and younger sister. The moment he entered, the noise of the street faded into a quiet, almost sacred space. His mother looked up from the sewing machine and smiled gently. "Welcome, my son," she said. "I kept some jollof for you." After eating, Femi went straight to work. He opened his second-hand laptop, slow, cracked screen, but still functioning. The glow lit up his face as he reviewed the lines of code he'd written the night before. It was an idea he'd been growing in secret, a mobile app that helped market women keep track of daily sales, even without internet. He smiled quietly. This could be something. Maybe even everything. Vanessa scrolled through her phone that same night, lying on her plush bed in her perfectly decorated room. Her walls were lined with framed selfies, shopping bags from abroad, and awards she barely remembered earning. Her father's voice boomed downstairs during a call about another real estate deal in Dubai. She was used to the sound, power-made noise. To her, life was already mapped out: graduate, take over part of the company, and marry someone equally wealthy. People like Femi were just background characters in her story. But somewhere inside her, boredom crept in. Everything felt predictable. Even her friends' gossip had become repetitive. She paused for a moment and opened Instagram. Curiosity pushed her to check Femi's profile, if he even had one. She found it, barely active, just a few photos of books, computer screens, and once, a picture of his mother laughing. No filters, no flaunting. She scoffed. "So weird," she mumbled. But she stayed longer than she expected. Femi was used to feeling invisible, but he wasn't foolish. He noticed Vanessa's glances, the way her laughter sometimes hesitated around him now. He didn't care much, at least, that's what he told himself. His focus stayed sharp. Every evening after homework, he returned to the small desk in his room to improve his app. He tested new features, corrected bugs, and studied YouTube tutorials under candlelight when power failed. He even walked to a cybercafe twice a week just to upload progress to a free cloud server. It was slow work, but he believed in it. Meanwhile, Vanessa's father began coming home later than usual. His phone calls turned tense, his tone clipped. One night, Vanessa overheard him shouting over the phone. "They pulled the plug. After everything I put into that estate project." Her mother's silence said more than any words. That was the first time Vanessa realized something might be wrong. But she brushed it off. Their money couldn't possibly run dry, could it? At school the next day, Vanessa was quieter than usual. Her father had left early that morning without saying goodbye, and her mother barely touched her breakfast. Something was shifting in her perfect world, but she couldn't place it. She arrived in class late and found Femi already seated, typing away on his laptop. The teacher hadn't arrived yet. For a strange second, their eyes met. She quickly looked away, annoyed at herself for even noticing him. Femi noticed, though. He saw the crack in her usual confidence. She didn't walk in with her usual loud laughter, and her friends didn't rush to greet her. Something was off. But he said nothing. He returned his focus to the app, now fully functional. He had named it Tracker and was testing its offline mode. It had potential. If he could just pitch it to someone with the right network, it could change his family's life forever. Vanessa's world began to shrink without warning. That week, her driver stopped showing up. Her mother claimed he had taken a short leave, but Vanessa noticed the truth. Her father now dropped her off in an older SUV, dressed less sharply, speaking less. Then came the whispers. Her friend Laura asked quietly, "Is it true your dad's estate deal fell through?" Vanessa froze. "What are you talking about?" she snapped. But Laura shrugged. "People are saying he owes some investors." In class, the power dynamic shifted. The same classmates who once followed Vanessa now kept a slight distance. Femi observed it all silently. He didn't mock her. He didn't even smirk. He just kept to himself. But inside, he remembered every word she had used to belittle him. Still, he reminded himself of his mother's advice: don't use success to return insults. Use it to lift yourself. So he kept coding, kept dreaming. His time was coming. The fall from grace came quicker than Vanessa expected. Her family was forced to move out of their luxurious mansion after an auction notice was served. The news spread through the school like wildfire. Some students whispered with pity, others with delight. Vanessa returned to school wearing last year's clothes, her phone deactivated, her nails undone. Her father had vanished from the public eye, and her mother spent her days trying to contact old friends who no longer picked her calls. Femi, meanwhile, had started gaining quiet attention. One of his teachers had noticed the app and connected him to a local tech mentor. Soon, he was invited to speak at a youth innovation forum in Victoria Island. His confidence grew. He began to work with purpose. Vanessa noticed. One morning, she sat alone under a tree during lunch. He walked past her. She looked up. For once, there was no pride in her eyes, only confusion. That night, Vanessa sat in the small apartment her family had rented in Suralaya. The air felt stuffy, and the silence was heavier than ever. Her mother sat on the floor, sorting old clothes for resale. Her father hadn't come home. Vanessa scrolled through her old pictures, laughing at brunch, shopping abroad, mocking people like Femi. She paused on one group photo and zoomed in on his face in the background. He had been invisible to her then. But now, he was the one walking with confidence while her world crumbled. Meanwhile, Femi stood before a small group of investors, presenting Tracker. He spoke clearly, passionately, explaining how his app could help traders, market women, and even small shops manage money offline. When he finished, a short pause followed. Then one investor leaned forward and said, "You built this alone?" Femi nodded. "We'll talk," the man replied. Femi smiled, not with pride, but with quiet hope. A door had finally opened. The next week, Kingshaven buzzed with news. Femi's name was suddenly on everyone's lips. A blog post about the tech event had gone viral. Photos of him in a neat shirt and tie, confidently speaking into a microphone, circulated on Instagram. Students who once ignored him now gave him nods in the hallway. Teachers smiled at him with a new sense of respect. Even the principal called him in privately to say, "You've made us proud." Vanessa saw the post too. She stared at the picture in disbelief. The same boy she once laughed at now stood beside CEOs and tech influencers. Something inside her shifted, an uncomfortable mix of regret and admiration. During class, she tried to speak to him. "Hey, Femi," she said quietly after the bell. He looked at her. She opened her mouth to say something more, but the words got stuck. He gave a small nod, then walked past her without a word. Vanessa sat at the back of the class, her head low. Her pride, once so firm and loud, had melted under the weight of shame. She had tried to apologize to Femi, but even his silence had felt like a mirror. Now, she watched him differently, not as the boy with torn shoes, but as someone who had built something real. Something lasting. She began to notice the details she once mocked, his quiet focus, his patience, his strength. She envied it. Femi, on the other hand, wasn't bitter. But he hadn't forgotten. He had been laughed at, humiliated, made to feel like nothing. And now, those same voices had gone quiet. He still didn't speak much in class, but his aura had changed. He carried himself with assurance, knowing where he was going. His only focus now was on perfecting the app. He had just been offered a development grant. Everything was moving fast. The investors invited Femi for another round of meetings, this time to sign an agreement that would bring Tracker into commercial markets across West Africa. It was more than he ever imagined. He wore a well-fitted shirt, bought from savings he had tucked away for years. He shook hands with men in suits, and as the pen touched paper, something changed inside him. He was no longer the scholarship boy. He was the founder of something big. Back at school, whispers grew louder. Femi's app got funding. He's now a millionaire. He's going to build an office in Lekki. Even teachers changed their tone around him. Vanessa overheard it all, her heart sinking. Her own family barely had enough to pay her school fees. She started avoiding her former friends, the ones who now pitied her, or worse, ignored her. Alone in the hallway one afternoon, she saw Femi by his locker. This time, she didn't look away. Vanessa took a deep breath and approached Femi. Her voice trembled. "Can I talk to you?" He turned, calmly. "Sure." She didn't expect that. They sat on a bench outside the science lab, where their story had begun months ago with insult and silence. She looked at him, unsure where to begin. "I was cruel," she said softly. "I mocked you for things I didn't understand. I'm sorry." Femi nodded slowly, his eyes thoughtful. "You don't owe me an apology. Life already taught me to forgive." Vanessa's eyes welled up. "I know, but I need you to hear it from me. I've lost everything. My dad's company, our house, even my friends. But what I regret most is the way I treated you." For the first time, Femi smiled, not with smugness, but gently. "Maybe losing everything is what helped you find yourself," he said. Vanessa stared at him, speechless. From that day, something shifted between them. Vanessa no longer approached Femi with pride or flirtation, she came with honesty. They started having short conversations between classes. Sometimes about tech, sometimes about life, sometimes about nothing at all. Vanessa listened more. She asked questions. Femi answered without judgment. He noticed how much she had changed, the sharp edges in her voice were gone. Her laughter was quieter now, more real. But the past didn't disappear easily. Some students began gossiping again. Is she chasing him because he's rich now? She's just looking for a comeback. Vanessa heard them, but she didn't explain herself. She knew the truth. Femi did too. One day after school, as they walked past the school gate together, Vanessa turned to him and asked, "Do you believe people can change?" Femi looked at her for a long moment. "I think pain forces some people to grow," he said. Femi's success continued to rise. His story was featured in a national newspaper. Tech blogs called him Nigeria's youngest rising developer. Invitations poured in from conferences, schools, even foreign investors. But through it all, he stayed grounded. He still worked some days instead of driving. He still greeted the school security man with respect. He even bought his mother a new sewing machine and paid off their rent for a year. Vanessa began working part-time after school, helping her mother sell clothes online. It was her idea. She took photos, learned how to caption items, and managed orders. It wasn't glamorous, but it gave her pride, something she hadn't felt in a long time. One evening, as she and Femi sat under a tree, she showed him the mini website she had built on her phone. "It's not much," she said. He scrolled through it and nodded. "It's a start," he replied, smiling. The school organized a career fair, and Femi was invited as a guest speaker. He stood on stage, dressed in a clean blue shirt and slacks, holding a wireless mic with steady hands. "I used to sit right there," he said, pointing to the last row. "And I know what it feels like to be invisible." The hall was silent. Even Vanessa's former friends listened closely. "But I learned something: your value is not what you wear or what people say. Your value is in what you build, even when no one sees it." After the talk, the principal shook his hand with pride. Teachers asked for photos. But it was Vanessa who stood to the side, clapping quietly, tears in her eyes. Not from sadness, but from something like hope. Later, she walked up to him. "That was powerful," she said. Femi looked at her warmly. "Thanks for seeing me now," he replied. Vanessa smiled. "Finally," she whispered. The weeks that followed brought new beginnings. Femi's company launched its first office space in Lekki. It was modest, just a small flat converted into a tech hub, but it was his. He hired 2 friends from the scholarship program and a cousin who was good at design. Every afternoon, after school, he went there to work. His days were filled with meetings, updates, and learning the business side of his passion. Still, he made time for his family, for himself, and slowly, for Vanessa. Vanessa visited the office one Saturday afternoon. She had brought her mother's latest batch of clothes for feedback on a marketing flyer. Femi offered her a seat and some cold zobo. "I've never been in a place like this," she said, scanning the room full of laptops and sticky notes. "Feels like the future." Femi chuckled. "It started with just my old laptop and a cracked screen." Vanessa smiled. "Now look at you." That evening, they took a walk through Lekki's quiet side streets. The air was calm, and for once, they weren't talking about the past or success or pain. They were just laughing. Vanessa shared stories about her younger brother's strange cooking experiments, and Femi talked about the time he accidentally crashed a church computer during service. The laughter came easily, like it had been waiting. They stopped by a suya stand and sat on a bench, chewing slowly, comfortable in the silence between them. "Do you think people get second chances in life?" Vanessa asked, her tone serious. Femi looked at her. "Only if they stop pretending they never needed one," he said. Vanessa nodded slowly. "Then maybe I'm finally ready for mine." That night, under the orange Lagos sky, something unspoken passed between them, an understanding that what they were building now had little to do with the past and everything to do with the future. Word spread quickly that Femi had made his first million in official app revenue. It was trending on Twitter Nigeria. His schoolmates flooded his inbox. Reporters began calling him Lekki's tech prince. But Femi kept his routine, school, work, and quiet nights with his mother and sister. When the school announced he would be given a national award at an upcoming youth summit, Vanessa was the first to hug him. I'm proud of you, she said, and this time, she meant every word. The day of the award, Vanessa sat in the front row with her mother beside her. Femi took the stage in a fitted suit, calm and smiling. As he held the award and gave his speech, he looked out at the crowd and saw her. Their eyes met. He didn't say her name. But he said something that made her blink away tears. Sometimes, the people who hurt you the most become the ones who understand you best. The summit changed everything. Femi's inbox exploded with internship offers, partnership deals, and interviews. His name was on every youth platform across Africa. But with the attention came pressure. Investors wanted fast returns, and new hires looked to him for every decision. Sometimes he sat alone in the dark, wondering if he was truly ready for all of it. Yet in those moments, it was Vanessa's voice that echoed most. She never praised the money, only his courage. One evening, he called her unexpectedly. "Can we talk?" They met at the school library after hours. Femi paced for a while before he spoke. "I'm not sure I'm doing this right," he said. "I don't even know what I want anymore." Vanessa walked over and touched his arm gently. "Then start with what makes you happy," she whispered. "Not what makes you rich." For the first time in days, he exhaled. She wasn't part of the chaos, she was his calm. Meanwhile, Vanessa's father had taken a job as a site manager in Ibadan. Her mother continued to sew, slowly rebuilding their life from scratch. Vanessa worked part-time at a small boutique after school, managing their social media. Her pride had softened. She no longer cared about the glitter of wealth but about peace, purpose, and healing. When she saw Femi's younger sister wearing one of her mom's designs, her heart lifted. The world was smaller now, but more real. One weekend, Vanessa invited Femi to their home. It was the first time since their family's fall. The living room was simple, no chandeliers, no expensive furniture, just warmth. Her mother served pepper soup, and they all ate like old friends. "Thank you for not forgetting us," her mother said. Femi looked at Vanessa and replied, "She made sure I never could." It was quiet, but in that silence, hearts were mending in places that once felt broken. The final term of school began. Everyone talked about prom and graduation. Vanessa overheard girls planning who they'd ask and which designer would sew their gowns. She smiled and walked past. Her focus was different now. She wanted to leave Lekki with dignity, not attention. She had applied for scholarships in Ghana and Canada, hoping to study fashion marketing. She told Femi, who smiled and said, "You'll go far." And not just because of books. One afternoon, while sitting under a mango tree near the school gate, Femi pulled out a small gift bag. "It's not expensive," he warned, "but it's yours." Inside was a leather-bound sketchbook. "For your designs," he said. Vanessa blinked. "You remembered I said I wanted to start sketching again?" He nodded. "You don't just remember the people who help you," he said, "you remember the ones who changed you." She held the sketchbook close, overwhelmed by how far they'd come. Vanessa sat on her bed that night, flipping through the sketchbook Femi had given her. Each blank page felt like a promise, a fresh start. She began sketching quietly, slowly letting her imagination take over. As her pencil moved, her confidence returned. These weren't just clothes, they were pieces of her journey, stitched with lessons of pain, pride, and grace. By morning, she had 10 new designs, each one bolder than the last. Her mother wept softly when she saw them. "You are your father's daughter," she said, "but you're becoming your own woman too." At school, Femi noticed a shift. Vanessa walked with a soft kind of power, no longer loud but deeply rooted. They worked together on the graduation yearbook, side by side in the computer lab. Their classmates noticed too, whispers spread. "Are they dating?" someone asked. Vanessa just smiled. For once, she didn't care what they thought. She knew what was real. Prom night arrived. The school auditorium was lit with fairy lights and silver drapes. Students came dressed in glitter, heels, suits, and excitement. Femi wore a black traditional agbada with subtle gold patterns, sharp and elegant. Vanessa stepped in wearing a gown she designed herself, red silk, simple and regal, with encore lining stitched along the hem. Everyone turned. Even the popular girls, once her closest friends, stared in disbelief. "Is that Vanessa?" someone whispered. Femi met her at the stairs and offered his arm. "Shall we?" She nodded. They danced slowly under the lights, just the two of them. It wasn't about impressing anyone, it was about celebrating growth. Midway through the night, a teacher tapped the mic. "Award for most transformed student," she said, "goes to Vanessa Onukochi." Applause thundered. Vanessa stepped up, breath shaking. "Sometimes," she said, "you lose everything, just to find yourself." Her classmates went quiet. It was the loudest silence she'd ever heard. Graduation day felt surreal. Families gathered, cameras clicked, and gowns rustled as students took their seats. Vanessa's name was called, and she walked across the stage with steady steps, her parents clapping proudly from the crowd. She saw Femi's mother beaming too, holding a small Nigerian flag. When Femi's name came, the hall erupted with cheers. He had become a symbol, not just of success, but of quiet resilience. After the ceremony, Femi and Vanessa found a quiet corner behind the school building. "So what's next for you?" he asked. Vanessa smiled. "Ghana, if the scholarship comes through." "And you?" He looked out toward the sunlit sky. "A tech hub in Yoba. I want to build something for kids like me, kids who dream but don't have tools." Vanessa held his gaze. "Whatever happens," she said, "promise me we won't forget who we were." He nodded. "We can't. That's how we became who we are." 3 months later, Vanessa stood on the balcony of her hostel in Ghana, watching the sunrise over Accra. Her scholarship had come through, and she was now studying fashion and business at a prestigious institute. Her days were full of lectures, fabric markets, and long nights stitching ideas into dresses. But despite the excitement, she sometimes felt a quiet ache, one she couldn't name. She kept a photo of her parents and another of her high school graduation pinned to her wall. And next to it, a folded note from Femi that simply read, "Keep blooming." Back in Lagos, Femi launched his tech startup, Bridge. It offered free coding lessons to students in underfunded schools. The app gained traction quickly. Investors reached out. But Femi stayed grounded. Every Saturday, he visited his old neighborhood to mentor kids personally. Though busy, he never missed Vanessa's emails. Their friendship grew deeper, letters full of ideas, encouragement, and unspoken care. During the semester break, Vanessa flew back to Lagos. Femi met her at the airport, taller than she remembered, more confident but still warm. They drove through Lekki in silence at first, both soaking in the familiarity. When they reached the shore, Vanessa pulled out a sketchpad. "I designed a collection," she said. "But it's missing a story." Femi smiled. "Then let's tell one." Together, they planned a project, Threads of Redemption, a fashion tech collaboration showcasing designs inspired by transformation, paired with digital stories coded into an app. Their old school heard about it and offered to host the first exhibition. On launch day, the auditorium was filled with students, alumni, and media. Vanessa stood on stage beside Femi. "This," she said, "is what happens when you choose growth over pride." The audience rose to their feet, clapping not just for clothes, but for the courage behind them. The exhibition went viral across Nigeria and beyond. Interviews followed. TV stations wanted their story. Parents from Lekki who once whispered about that scholarship boy now quoted him with pride. Vanessa's former bully sent awkward texts, trying to reconnect. She didn't respond. She had moved on. One night, Femi invited her to his mother's house for dinner. The table was filled with jollof rice, grilled fish, and laughter. His mother hugged Vanessa tightly. "You've brought light to my son's eyes," she said. Vanessa's eyes glistened, unsure how to respond. Later that evening, Femi walked her to her ride. "Vanessa," he said, voice low, "there's something I've wanted to say since prom." She looked at him, heart racing. She gently put a finger to his lips. "Not tonight," she whispered. "Let's not rush something we've already waited so long to build." he nodded. The night was young. And so were they. 1 year later, Threads of Redemption had become a regional brand, traveling to Ghana, Kenya, and the US. It wasn't just fashion or tech, it was a movement. Vanessa and Femi stood at the TEDx stage in Abuja, presenting their journey. Photos of torn shoes, prom dances, and fabric sketches flashed behind them. We are proof, Vanessa said, that pain can birth purpose. The audience rose, giving a standing ovation. After the talk, under a star-filled sky, Femi took her hand. Vanessa, will you? She laughed. Now you can finish that sentence. He smiled. Will you build forever with me? She didn't need to think. Yes, she said. Yes to all of it. In that moment, they weren't just the scholarship boy and the tycoon's daughter. They were two hearts who had walked through pride, failure, and growth only to find love, purpose, and each other at the end.